guys, welcome back to the channel. It's a little bit different view than yesterday. We're back inside. We're doing a tips, tricks, and tackle review for the pre-spawn and post-spawn time of the year. Was out yesterday fishing in my area, still really cold, not even into that winter transition into fish thinking about pre-spawn. So but really for the southern part of the country, a lot of people are in that time frame, whether it's pre-spawn, whether it's in the spawn, or some places are even post-spawn right now. So figured it would be a good day to go over a few of my favorite baits, a few of my favorite types of tackle I have with me, and some tips and tricks for this time of the year around the spawn. So stick around and let's dive in. Alright guys, as you can see, we're talking all different types of baits, all different types of tackle, from hooks to weights to bobber stops, even to just regular gear that we wear during this time of the year, or that you can wear during this time of the year. So we're going to jump right into it. One of the things during this transition, or when we're getting close to the spawn, we see the pre-spawn with fish maybe staging up, or they're leaving their winter hibernating areas. They're moving up, they're staging on those points, those secondary points, and everything, and moving towards those shallows or those spawning areas where they're going to eventually spawn, and then we'll move into post-spawn. So what I like to throw when we're early on, pre-spawn, all the way up until the spawn, is I like a moving bait. Now we touched on that in a previous video with crankbaits and all sorts of stuff there, but I wanted to highlight some specific baits that I like throwing when we get closer to that spawn. And one of those baits that I like year round is a not only during this time, but like I said, year round, is a spinnerbait. And the great thing about a spinnerbait is it's tried and true. It's proven. You can catch fish on it all the time, and it's easy to rig, easy to use. So if you're a beginner, or most people know, you just kind of chuck it out there and wind it, and you can catch fish. There's other ways to work a spinnerbait, but it's one of the simpler ways to catch fish, and one of the most effective ways. Normally, I'll throw on a trailer on it, some type of paddle tail, maybe paddle tail swim bait, and normally matching the hatch, depending on the season and what's in my waters. This one, obviously, you can tell, is a bluegill pattern. That's mostly the forage in my lakes and ponds that I'm fishing, bluegill and crappie. So most of my stuff is along those lines. But a spinnerbait during this time of the year is a great bait. Not only that you can fish shallow, but also in that medium range and even deep if you wanted to. But it's a great search bait to find those fish as well and see where they're hanging out. Along that same token, we'll go same color, but different bait, is a swim jig. Again, another great bait, another moving bait, right? We're talking the fish are starting to move. They're water's warming up. They're moving towards those spawning flats and those spawning locations. They are definitely more apt to eat now on a moving bait as they move into the spawn. But a swim jig, again, another great option. You throw a paddle tail on here, or a craw or a bandito bug. Again, two of my favorite things to throw on the back of a swim jig. But definitely an effective tool, just like the spinnerbait. But you have a little bit more of a subtle presentation, I would say. You lose the vibration, the flash of the blades, and you can really burn this through and pass some fish, and they might be more apt to grab it than, let's say, a spinnerbait, as this is kind of just darting around. You can pull this through some grass. It's got the weed guard and everything. It's another great tool when those bass are moving up to spawn. Now, also on the same token, when we're moving up into the spawn and getting closer and closer, one type of bait that I overlooked was a jointed swim bait or some type of swim bait, a paddle tail swim bait, some type of wake bait. These were baits that I really didn't use. I didn't have much confidence in, and during this time they can really find you some fish. They're a good search tool, but also when these fish are moving closer to spawn and looking to make beds, they are very territorial. So you'll see them chasing bluegills and all sorts of stuff around, away from an area that either they've already made a bed and they're locked to, or an area that they're at. They become very aggressive, very territorial. So a glide bait or a hard body swim bait or jointed swim bait definitely works. Definitely soft bodied swim baits work too. And I don't have any here, but paddle tail swim baits work also too during this time. You can throw that on like a belly weighted hook that I have here. You just throw that on there, you know, with a paddle tail, or even if you wanted that flash, that vibration that you get out of a spinner bait, you can throw it on an underspin. I don't have any paddle tails out. I forgot to bring some, but paddle tail swim baits do fit into this category. Now for me, most of my swim baits, whether they're paddle tails or jointed or some type of wake bait, or like this boot tail, they're all on the smaller side. This is a pretty small profile. We'll use this guy as an example. This is a pretty small profile bait for fishing, but I like it because of that. I like being able to have a smaller presentation for those fish that mimics a bait fish or a fish in their area that might be wanting to get on their bed. So this is a sunfish or a bluegill by live target, and the nice thing about this smaller profile is the fish are more apt to get the whole thing in their mouth, whereas if you have a bigger profile bait during this time of the year in the spawn, fish are normally nipping at whatever it is and they might not catch the hook. They might, nip at the tail, or if it's a craw, they might nip at your pinchers and pull those off, and when you go to set the hook, they never have the hook. So a smaller size bait this time of the year definitely is a good choice. Now on the other side of the spectrum, a larger size swim bait definitely is not something to discount either. They work just as well for pulling those real big fish or those bigger fish out or drawing them in to that bait if you're working and fishing in an area that has bigger fish. So moving right along, guys, we talked a little bit about the pre-spawn and moving up into spawn. You're seeing some staging fish or fish grouping up together, moving around, schooling a little bit, but you're seeing fish, but they're not locked on beds. Now let's switch gears and talk. We see fish on beds. Either a single fish is on a bed or you got a pair, but you're seeing fish on beds. You want to fish or you want to throw to those fish and try and catch those fish on those beds. My number one choice for bed fishing has been a smaller presentation jig. Just a smaller, this isn't like a finesse jig or anything like that, but it's just a smaller jig. I think this is a 1/4 ounce jig with just a chunk trailer on the back. And the color that I found success with is this black and blue jig with a green pumpkin natural trailer. And as you can see here, this jig has been beat up, and really most of my bedfish have come on this exact jig. The skirt's coming off already. I mean, this thing's been beat up and I've replaced it since then, but this smaller profile jig, again, allows the fish to grab the whole bait. They're not just grabbing the pinchers of my trailer. Again, we're keeping the trailer very small and compact so that they have to come into that hook we're keeping the bait small and compact at this time. We want the fish to grab the whole bait, not just the pinchers, not just the top or your brush guard. We want them to commit to that whole bait and really put the odds in your favor with a smaller profile bait. Smaller jig, smaller trailer, roll small and compact, again, will get that fish to get that hook. Whereas if you have a bigger, bulkier trailer or a bigger jig, that fish is more apt to maybe grabbing those pinchers, and you feel them, but you can't maybe necessarily see them, or you think they have the hook and you go to set it and you're ripping the pinchers off and they never had the hook in the first place. So for me, I like a smaller profile bait when I'm bed fishing. Keeping it simple, keeping it small and compact, really increasing and stacking the deck in my favor for when I'm fishing for those fish on beds. Also, what I like to do is I'll throw a smaller craw or creature bait on either a mushroom head or a Ned head and work that bait in that bed. If the fish isn't, if the jig isn't working on that fish, if it's not committing, or if it's just not getting the hook, I'll downsize even further and use a Ned head or a mushroom head or even a stand-up head and thread on a smaller craw, smaller creature bait type plastic. That way I'm really small and compact. I mean, you can see that's a pretty small, compact hook, and putting a small, what I use is a Z-Man, they're TRD craws. I think they're really meant as almost like a Ned, I think, but I've used them on bedfish as well, just because it's a real nice small compact bait that really the fish can key in on and take completely in their mouth, and I have a good percentage or good hookup percentage for that reason with a smaller bait. One thing we can't overlook when bed fishing especially is a good pair of glasses. Now, if you guys have watched a previous video of mine, I showcased these a little bit in that video. These are the Guggen Squad Mondo Optics, the largy lookers, and I just picked these up this year, and really haven't used them yet at all. My previous video that went out yesterday, I wore them while fishing for the first time. Believe it or not, we fished here in 2020 already in Illinois. So I wore these and I was really impressed with these. There was no beds obviously for me to look at, but just wearing these was really surprising. This is truly like a first pair of bed fishing or fishing sunglasses that I have. Most of my sunglasses that I use for fishing were just regular polarized lenses that I just wore on a daily basis, or I had one or two pairs and I dedicated one pair to being a fishing pair and the other pair to wear casually. We really can't overlook a good pair of glasses. Again, last year, my number one go-to bait that I was throwing when I saw fish on beds, whether it was as a trailer cut down or if it was just Texas rig by itself flipping on a bed, was the Guggen Baits Crack and Craw in the natural. I absolutely love that pearl belly. It was real easy to spot in clear water and dirty water. It was great using these. I absolutely loved them. I've never thrown an all-white bait during the spawn. Now, for me, I don't know, it was weird picking up a total white bait to throw, but again, we're talking spawn time of the year, so that fish is not really eating your bait because it's hungry or it's imitating some type of prey that they're eating, whether it be a bluegill or a craw or whatever. It's really just moving that bait off of that bed. You're really just in its territory, you're getting it mad, and it just wants this thing gone. So really, color at that point doesn't really matter. So I'm excited to use these, make it a little bit easier to see even in the waters that I'm fishing. So I'm excited to use the all-white color bandito bug. I do have some Kraken craws as well that I can use this year too, but super excited about that. Another bait that's great during this time of the year that I've seen success with, that might be a little bit off the beaten path for some, is a drop shot. If you watch my video from yesterday, you will see that I was using a drop shot yesterday. I was using a drop shot and a Ned rig yesterday. We went to a small little local pond that I knew only had small fish in it, if it had fish at all. So really stuck with the real small bait, real small and nice and compact, easy presentation, working them slow, and trying to get those fish to come in. But during the spawn time, when you see a fish on a bed, sometimes it's not necessarily pitching in there or flipping in there and landing that bait on the bed and working it. Most of the time it is, but sometimes I found that putting a drop shot there and working that bait across, suspended above the bed, sometimes we'll get some finicky fish to commit. So don't overlook a drop shot during this time of the year, especially the entire time during this. We're talking pre-spawn and post-spawn. A drop shot works awesome. It works awesome year-round, but really is a good bait to use as well during this time of the year that we're talking about, that spawn. So we'll go over a few just hooks and weights and stuff like that I like to carry. One, most of my hooks that I use Texas rigging are EWG style hooks. They're like this, but without the belly weight. So most of the time it's an EWG hook. However, during the spawn, I like to use just a regular flippin' style hook. I find it a little bit easier to just kind of skin hook the bait and, leave that tip of the hook exposed just a tiny bit. That way, again, we're stacking the odds in our favor. We want to get those fish to commit to that smaller presentation bait or whatever we're throwing, eat it all the way, and then get a good hook set into them. So I think this is a 3/0 flippin' style hook. This is pretty much what I use during the spawn when I'm Texas rigged. And like I said, the rest of the year, I'm using an EWG style hook. Now, you can't overlook moving on into the spawn and post-spawn your weight selection. So I use Tungsten. Tungsten is all the weights that I use. I have jigs from them, and just absolutely love using them. If you haven't switched to some type of tungsten, one, you're missing out, and two, if you haven't gone with Tungsten, again, I feel like you're missing out. I'm not just saying that because I'm on their pro staff. I'm on their pro staff because I enjoy their product. I like their product. I've tested other products. This is kind of where I stayed as far as my tungsten needs. I feel it's the best bang for your buck, meaning for product when you buy something, but also with the engagement of the company with the consumer. Can't say enough about the company as a whole, but again, I wouldn't bring you guys something that I didn't test and didn't believe in. I'm not just plugging them to plug them, but they're not sponsoring today's video. They're not sponsoring me. Like I said, I'm only on their pro staff. But again, I enjoy their product. If you guys haven't seen, most of their products now come with the, I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not, with the weight engraved into the weight itself. So okay, this is a 3/8 ounce flipping weight. So you don't have to guess anymore of, oh, is this a 3/8? Is this a quarter? Is this a half ounce? Whatever. It's just right on there. Makes it super easy grabbing it out of your box and moving forward. Obviously, there is a lot more gear, a lot more things we can cover, but these are some areas that I like to highlight. We got a good variety of moving baits. Baits that mimic other fish, predatory fish. Again, I cannot say enough about a small compact jig during this time of the year. It's absolutely been killer for me in my area. Like I said, 95% of my bedfish have come on this exact jig. So it's going to be hard. I replaced it with a couple other jigs that are similar. It's not the exact jig, so this year it's going to be hard not to try and tie this guy on and go after it with it. But I'm going to tie on some other jigs and really do some of my research and really put some of these products through the ringer and test them out. Also, what I want to mention, guys, is not only during this time of the year, but we want to make sure that we are mindful of the resource, right, of the fish, especially around the spawn. You know, these fish go through a hellish time frame where they see a lot of pressure, but the pressure aside from the angler, they see a lot of action, no pun intended, right? They're really bad beat up after the spawn. So when we're out fishing during the spawn and we're pulling fish off beds, just be mindful. Let's take care of the fish. Let's keep the resource healthy and thriving. So let's not be chucking fish like footballs and whatnot back into the water. Let's really take care of the resource. I mean, obviously we all enjoy fishing and we all want to keep the resource alive and healthy and well. So that was my 5-second soapbox spiel to everyone. If you haven't been using any of these, I highly suggest using some. You know, we went over the spinnerbait, we went over the swim jig, we went over smaller, soft body, boot tail, swim baits, as well as some jointed baits. Don't forget those paddle tails. Those are great. We went over flipping style baits, whether it's a smaller compact bandito bug or something that's really going to be kicking those legs out there with the crack and craw. Again, a drop shot. That's my little tip, my little secret that I've seen success with is a drop shot during the spawn. Don't be hesitant to throw a drop shot on a bedded fish. You will find success with it. We went over my number one choice for the spawn is that smaller compact black and blue jig that I've had a lot of success with that green pumpkin trailer. We talked about weights. Again, essentials to your year-round tackle, but definitely things that you definitely need, as well as we went over some non-tackle related items with a good pair of glasses, a good pair of sunglasses for you during this time of the year. You want to stack the deck in your favor. This is the best time of the year for some of us to really go out and catch a big fish. Most of my angling, most of my fishing, 99% of it is from the bank. And this time of the year is when the fish come to you. If you're a bank angler, they are coming to you. You have to be ready. You have to put as much time and effort into prepping for this time of the year to really, again, stack the deck in your favor, to really optimize your chances of getting that PB bass. Because it only happens one time a year where all those fish, you know where they're going. They're going shallow. They're going to the spawning flats. They are going to be shallow and sometimes tight to certain cover, sometimes out in the open, sometimes a couple feet deep in water. Who knows? But you know where they're going. And as that bank angler, you have to take advantage of that, because again, only one time of the year that those fish come to us on the bank. The rest of the time, they're split 50-50. Half of the fish go back out deep, half of the fish stay up shallow, and you got to find them and search for them. This time of the year is the easiest way to tell where those fish are. So I hope you guys enjoyed this overview of all of the gear, all of the tackle, all of the gear outside of tackle, sunglasses, sun protection. The only thing we didn't cover was rods. I use a variety of different rods, but really my bread and butter during this time of the year is a 7-foot medium heavy, or anything between a 7.2 to 7.6 heavy. So that's all I have as far as a gear review for you guys today. Alright guys, today's video is done and over with. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We went over baits, we went over tackle, we went over some tips and tricks. We went over some gear, whether it be sunglasses or sun protection, outside of actually fishing related gear or fishing, trying to get a fish. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you guys did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you hit those notification bells so you're up to date on all the new videos coming. With the weather getting warmer outside, there is going to be more content coming here on YouTube. Definitely trying to grow this channel. We just hit 255 followers on Instagram. So definitely excited about that. That's huge. If you're not already following me on Instagram, that's linked in the video description below. Go ahead and give me a follow there. Most of the previews for upcoming videos launch on Instagram first. I'm thinking of doing a giveaway soon over there, so details for that giveaway would drop there first, and then probably filter on down here, so you can be in on the know sooner if you're on that Instagram. Tungsten, we showcased a few tungsten options in the last video, which I'll leave at the end of this video if you guys haven't seen that video, but we did talk about it today as well. Tungsten is also linked in the description. If you're looking for some tungsten, looking for some jigs, looking for some shaky heads, some net heads, anything really that you might need for the upcoming season, and you haven't gotten into tungsten, or you're a seasoned veteran in tungsten, go check them out. There is a link in the description as well for, I believe it's 10 or 15% off. It is not an affiliate link by any means, so it doesn't help the channel out at all. It's just a link I have that I can give you guys because I'm part of their pro staff. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. We'll see you guys on the next one, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we're gonna be fishing soon here. It was about 50 degrees here today, so it was 40, 45 yesterday, 50, 52 today. So we're trending, but there is a snowstorm coming our way that I am not excited about. But hopefully it misses us. Hopefully we keep warming up and we can get out on the water. We'll catch you guys on the next one.